You guys like me when I have crappy production. Maybe we can trick people into liking me more when I have better production. Hey, it's Chris. No, seriously, it's me, right? Holy cow, look at this. I was dinking around with camera settings and it looks like I actually got something that's halfway decent now. I actually look like I know what I'm doing partially. At least some of the time. Crowdfunding roundup, what's new this week? All over the place. Bunch of games that I didn't even know were launching. A bunch of games that actually look pretty decent. A bunch of games that are raising a ton of money. And are they actually worth it? Well, let's not go that far extreme, Chris. You know, nice setup. Just kidding. Setup hasn't changed. I'm just screwing around with camera settings. I didn't change any camera settings to begin with, though. That's the freaking problem. You ready? New crowdfunding games this week. Let's go. Truth be told, I didn't think I'd be starting with this one, but here we are. Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game, Stronghold, Conflict, and Co-expansions. 3 new expansions, $3 million. This is on pace to outfund Cyberpunk and potentially even Puerto Rico. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the month, I would have laughed you to the freaking bank, right? But holy nostalgia's Batman. When I pulled up this page last week for the news video or on Monday or whatever it was, whenever that video went live, by the way, my yesterday video for Cyberpunk 2077, should you back it or not, went up live. So you can check that out too, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this. It had like 60-some thousand people following on this page. 13,500 are already backing. That's insane. And now the Get It All is $124 for the gameplay. This is all the stretch goal stuff you're getting from this campaign. And they're giving you all of the previous crowdfunding stretch goals too as add-ons. So you can do that if you want. Or you can pay $374 for 2 huge box add-ons of everything that they talk about. And I'm not sure what this is exactly referring to, but 44 pounds or 20 kilos-esque, for depending on which side of the pond you're on. That's a ton of stuff, right? That's too much stuff. And that'd be my argument is all of these are just like different factions, and there's 10 different factions and 7 units total that are going to be available to you in each of those factions. And then you can choose your hero to give them some more asymmetry along those lines. And you have the overworld with the fog of war. And then you have the individual like lane battling turn-based tactical battle situation that you're doing here alongside of things. And it gives me like Euthia from Another Mother sort of situation when I'm just looking at it on the overarching world view top down, right? Mechanically speaking, though, the problem is, what is it doing differently in that way? Why should you be looking at this compared to something like Euthia? Why should you be looking at something like this compared to Mage Knight? There's none of that on the page. There's none of that on the page. There's plenty of videos when we get down here to the bottom part of the how to plays and reviews, and you can get that whatever language you speak, listen to, or want to hear it in. I mean, yeah, right? Sometimes, you know, you're English speaking and you want to hear a German review. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But what I'm saying, though, is I wish there was some actual mechanic on this page. If this is so well acclaimed, why are you not showing me more of the mechanic? And I guess the honest answer is they don't need to, because people are going in on it regardless, right? We'll talk about that with another IP here in a little bit later in the video. But it's giving you tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff, right? 10 towns or factions to choose from. 7 unique units in each of them. Add neutral units to customize it. Here's the 44 pounds of beauty that they mentioned. That just sort of almost makes my hands hurt just thinking about how much I'm going to have to punch out, store, and organize, though, nowadays. So more, I guess, in my head is not always better. And they talk about how you're playing it, but they just basically give you the briefest of overviews here. Clash, campaign, alliance, or co-op. Choose your mode, choose your mood, and choose your player count and create your own scenario, just like the PC game. So explore the overworld, manage your town, and develop your hero, upgrading them, assembling your party, and dominating the combat board, as I mentioned. So again, it just runs you through briefly the 3 expansions here and what goes into them and the asymmetry that goes along with this. I don't know, right? This is a lifestyle game. 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 Just like anything else of this, I don't want to say genre, but mechanistic approach within open world-esque, you know, dungeon crawl, scheming, smashing together vibe. And so if that's not it, then, well, yeah. If that's not what you like, I mean, you need to be aware of that. So again, you can get some of the old stuff as well with some of those stretch goals, but if you want to piecemeal it, or if you bought it retail, you can get that as well. I give them kudos though, right? Because the crystal stretch goals here are like the miniature stretch goals. So if you didn't have the miniatures the first time around, you could a la mode it if you want. So you have all of these different options. And like I said, $374 for there. If you want to pay $500 for it all be appreciated, you can do that as well. Here's the individual situations that you can check out. And then it just goes through all the stretch goals that you're hitting. Again, that's not your make it or break on this game. All the videos from anyone that you want to know about. And, you know, again, one of those videos I skimmed over really quickly, it has sort of my question mark on it as a whole, right? Is it any good? I don't know. I don't know if it would be good. It's like Euthia to me, or like Return to Dark Tower, where I'd say at this point, if you don't have a copy, you better be playing someone else's copy first to figure out whether or not this mechanistic approach to this style of game, or what they're doing differently. If you watch some videos and go check out the rule books and go over to Board Game Geek and read some of the rules in the comments and all that stuff over there, to figure out whether or not it's truly right for you before you spend anywhere upwards of, you know, $150 to $500. I give them kudos. They're putting out something that people truly, apparently, clearly wanted. I just wish there was a little more on the page. I wish you could show me some of the more asymmetric values of that. But again, if you don't need to and you still get the money, right? That's what we're getting. And I'd argue that there's enough content out there at this point too that maybe it's not really necessary. And I just kind of wish, if you're someone new looking at this game, what's going to entice you? Why would you pick this game over some of those other open world dungeon crawl-esque whatever style games in the first place? That would be my big question mark if I'm going in new, not as a returning backer. As a returning backer, you're already going to know, what am I looking for? What am I not looking for? What am I actually interested in? Retail, same thing. But new people, that'd be my question. So we'll see. I mean, again, $3.1 million here in the first week. That's freaking insane. Then we're going over here. I'm going to be a little biased this week. Emberleaf, right? My video went out this week as well. $109,000, 1,000 people backing it, 1 to 5 players. Euro card-driven tableau builder with a sliding mechanism. So essentially what you're doing is you're going to be hex placing down on one of the 6 different clearings on your turn-by-turn basis. You have 2 actions on your turn that you get to choose from. One is to play one of these hero cards onto your tableau that goes in front of you on the board here in one of the 6 or potentially up to 8 spots, because you'll also see on the individual player boards there are hexes that you're going to be unlocking instead of paying for the generic cost from the market. Up here you can buy special ones off of your board as a one-time unlock, other icons from a combo style of things, or even potentially 2 extra spaces or resource spaces on your board, because ultimately as well, from a Euro optimization side of things, it is a resource gather in order to buy those hexes, to place them down, to house the animals that are sitting at the top of your board in the first place, which will then create an area control victory point situation while you manage gathering new heroes into your hand through that use of bonus comboing, and then also using those same combo skills to get favor cards, which are the end game objective points, which are just massive amounts. So the dancing that it talks about is the second action that you can take. Instead of laying one of those cards down into one of those 6 or potentially 8 spots, you slide them all to the left in a very specific manner, top to bottom, left to right, and then you take what they may offer if they have that action that is represented by the arrow and the green, and then they can also actually fall off here as well, giving you an additional action. And there's also a charge action too. It's like a, you know, you charge it and you spend it 1 time or 2 times or however many times you can until it falls off again and goes back to your hand, and you get to be able to put it back down. That's the gist of the game. I think it's really nice. The other aspect that you have to know, though, is the end game is actually achieved by people grabbing 6 scoring tiles, if you will, that is going to be slowly gathered by slowly moving down the trophy track, if I can actually get that out right, because that trophy track will give you resources as you're moving down it. But if you're the one that gets it down to the bottom layer of things, you get the trophy. Well, there are 6 trophies. When the 6th trophy is grabbed, the game ends after everyone gets all the same turns. You're going to be moving it down there by attacking the waylayers in between these villages that you're going to be moving between in order to area control in the first place, through the use of, again, that combo card system that's going to give you an attack ability as well. However, the other way you can also trigger getting a trophy is filling up one of those areas of the 6 different locations in the first place, so you don't have to be just attacking. I mean, it's deluxified, right? As I'm scrolling here, you can see that what they're offering here, a bag of upgrades, making it all wooden. Well, I think the extra trophies and the scoring bonus tracks are really good, because otherwise that could get a little bit samey. I would say that the hero pack probably isn't, necessarily, a huge thing, because you have plenty of that in the base game. And then upgrades right there, a little bit of exclusivity there with some of the extras that you're getting. So it's just a question of whether or not you like it on the crowdfunding aspect. And truth be told, with the hero pack offered here, as well as some of the deluxeifications that are going in even the retail edition, yeah, I mean, it's slightly expensive for what it is, but at the same time, like I saw people bemoaning it over in other parts of social media. And the interesting thing is, right, like we didn't talk about the, what was it, Chicago 68 or the chip theory, you know, whatever else, right? Like it's always interesting to see who gripes about what deluxeifications and that aren't worth it. So, you know what, the bottom line of it is, if this game really appeals to you, awesome, it's probably worth it. If it isn't, just like any other deluxeified version of things, well, don't get it. But it's just weird when people put one of these games on a pedestal and then be and moan about the other one, just like it's, you know, this was $150 for what they're offering instead. So again, it's got an extra hero pack here, you know, that you can add on as well. You know, they've got extra hero packs because you're also going to be, that I didn't mention, starting with asymmetric cards, and it gives you additional rules, flavor cards for the season, and building your fellowship there, and a greater personal challenge with advanced cards that you can deal with. So no stretch goals, right? No stretch goals. You're already getting it all included. Again, there's plenty of campaigns that do that. So it's just weird how people always pick and choose from that side of things. And if you want, again, there's plenty of videos down here from City of Games, as well as from people that enunciate and put out better videos than me in the first place. So you can check those out if you're interested as well. So that is it. It's all out there right now. It's $109,000 funded, and we'll see where it goes. But it's definitely one of the better Euro games I've played this year. It might be my favorite now, to be honest with you, just with the card-driven combo system as a whole. And just because, again, my brain wraps around this one rather nicely. Some of the other ones, it's a little bit obtuse. I'm just not as good at. So not only is it a smooth mechanistic approach, my brain actually gets how to play it. That is a bonus. Next up, Dark Tomb, the Ice Chasers, the third edition of the Pocket Tin Dungeon Crawl style game, where you start out, I believe, with 4 different asymmetric heroes, and then there are 7 monsters, I believe, including the stretch goals, that you're going to be slowly traversing as you flip up these cards, combinations of walking through dungeons on an action turn-based system, and just seeing how it combines this time that's different than the previous ones. Completely compatible with the previous 2, cooperative as a whole from 1 to 4 players, and you can even play as the monsters as you may like to do so sometimes as well. The 2 other previous Dark Tomb games here, no worries, you can get them separately. The monsters that they show you, the stages that you're going to be traversing with an extra 4th one this time as an extra mini stage, getting more difficult, more unique tiles, monsters, and items available to you. You're slowly randomizing and then flipping them up in the orientation based on the stage that you're going through. You're going to be navigating them, finding all of the items, fighting the monsters in order to defeat the stage to make it onto the next area. You take a series of actions indicated by the cards, but it has sort of an Expeditions X vibe, if you're familiar with that from Stonemaier games, where you lay the cube down and then you have to move it to a different one each time, subsequently not being able to take the same action twice in a row. And then otherwise it's just a move, take action, move, take action, move, take action. Combat is going to be based on the action or the attack that you select there, and then it's going to be additionally rolling a d20 in order to do damage to whatever you may do in the attack type and range as indicated by the iconography. What's new this time around is going to be a sidekick introduction that can attack, reveal tiles, but can't actually grab you items. So they only have 1 hit point, you take damage, and they're out. The Mountain Pass is the extra mini stage here, dashing through it and getting to the end of the Ice Dragon, trying to knock them out. So there are the stretch goals right now. You can kind of see that they've already hit a couple extra little gameplay contents. And again, you can get a whole bunch of preview content if that's your ilk right there as well. Because again, well, preview content's all the rage, and if you can do it, awesome. Dark Tomb, Ice Chasers, I mean, $87,000, it's killing it, right? Fantastic small box product. Give them kudos. Aspens. Okay. Aspens. $140,000 here. Again, a game I didn't know of. Game I would have told you, right? Earth, nature themed game. Tell me if you've heard this one before, right? Hoo-hoo. Raising a ton of money because it's very aesthetically pleasing. However, it's a 2-player abstract game. If that is not your ilk, do not buy this because it looks freaking pretty. Because I guarantee half the people that are buying it right now haven't looked at the gameplay and just look at it from an earth, trees, pretty, not actual game mechanics. And again, that's my biggest issue with crowdfunding as a whole, right? Ooh, it's so aesthetically cool. So what you've got going on here is you've got a conglomeration of 7 different boards in the 2-player game, but up to 14 in the 4-player game, because one of the expansions will offer a 2-player cooperative mode where you take your trees, place them down on a turn-by-turn basis, not only on your opponent's turn, but on your turn as well, slowly gathering, doing an area control situation until all of the spaces on the board are occupied, and then counting up at the end who has the most. However, the twist is that you are going to be getting trees based on how many of each area that you roll. That's right, you're going to be rolling 2 dice every turn, a weather and a wind. And the weather one for just the base game is a sun, and that's going to be having a number on it. And based on that number, you look at all of the tiles that have at least that many trees in the hexes, get that many trees to then replant adjacent or within the areas you already control. And so obviously, if you roll a 3 and you have 4 areas that have 3 trees, you would get 4 trees. If it's your turn, you get a 5th tree too, because whoever's turn it is gets an extra one. Then you'd be able to place those 5 trees wherever you want down adjacent to your areas in the first place, or within some of those areas that maybe already have 3 or 2 or 1 in them in order to increase them. Because if you have more with higher numbers, you're going to get more. But you want to expand because your opponent, all that matters is that you get more spaces than your opponent at the end of the game when all of these hexes are filled up, period. And if you block them off from being able to get in one of these areas, a la like Ragnarok's from the other game, Santorini-esque Gray Fox that, you know, still is somehow in my collection because I haven't sold it yet, then you just get to claim all of them. Now, one of the expansions is adding weather conditions, which basically allows you to roll a separate die and then indicate the combo that's going to be driven along that lines, which will allow you to place other tiles down or change the configuration or the amount of trees that's going to be presented or how you can seed them down in the first place. But it does a little bit more take that from an abstract style of things, so it may be hit or miss. One of the other expansions, like I mentioned, is going to be a 4-player cooperative where you now have 2 players on a team and you each have 2 color trees total, and then you're going to be cooperatively trying to do the same sort of thing back and forth, but you can sort of aid your partner in terms of when and how and putting it down in that way. But most of that stuff actually isn't really on the page. You're going to, again, have to go read the rule book, because even the gameplay linkage to like the little expansion stuff, unless you've read the base game of what I just explained to you, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever from that aspect, because they don't actually show you the unique mechanics. You can zoom in on like the weather one to see what those cards actually read, and that's how I know that they do the things that they do. But otherwise, you don't have a clue, because that's the one thing I'll say on this page is there's not really any actual information. All it just says right here is somehow capture sun, create new trees, plant your trees. Okay, well, it doesn't tell me how we plant trees necessarily. It doesn't tell you how you're going to do those big moves and how you're going to outwit, outgrow, and outmaneuver, right? That's just a clever marketing phrase right there more than anything else. So that's my issue with this, right? It looks pretty, but don't be fooled. This is heavy abstract. And so it's going to be a balancing. There's the sun and the wind die that I talked to you about in the base game. You can deluxify the hell out of it with, you know, everything wooden along those lines again. And it gives you, you know, the ability to plant a tree, which again, like deluxified abstract, $59. Deluxified, you know, Euro game that we were just talking about, the Emberleaf, you know, right? Like deluxified Euro, not out of the price range that it should be. Anyway, getting off that soapbox. But I think it's good for what it is, actually. I'm relatively intrigued by it. Am I going to back it on crowdfunding? Because I don't really want to pay for the extra bags and metal coins and some of the extra stuff. No, but I'd pick this up. You know me, I'm a big abstract fan. I guess I just wish that some of the other expansion content was a little bit more clear in what it's going to be offering, especially with the artifact and the god cards here that are going to give you some more asymmetry as well. And essentially this god tile is you lay trees all around it on 4 sides, and you get the unique power that it gives you. And again, you're getting to put down tiles on hexes and change seedings and all of those sorts of things in a manipulatable way. And if you pull up this little gameplay overview thing, you can again zoom in and see what some of those god powers are. But again, like, why isn't some of that on the page, right? Like, I love it, but show me it more on the page of what the mechanic is offering. I talked about the wild weather with these cards, and apparently you don't use them all in one game, so you can have different combos of them, which will allow you to seed and sprout and affect not only your trees, but tiles that your opponent's trees might be in as well, as you can see here by the weather marker tiles. So a lot there. Deciduous Duos is the 4-player version. Again, you're getting huge board expansions as a whole. So again, like, I'd be really interested in this game. I love abstracts, but I'm just not sure I want to pay this much for an abstract that I'm not sure I love yet. So that'd be my question as a whole. I don't think it's a bad value for the deluxe version, but if you don't really need it deluxe, I'd say hold off. This is the one that's not really saying what it's doing yet with the Marvel cards here. I don't know. The gameplay, you know, little overview isn't up there. But if you want some preview content down here to see a little bit more of things that I'm not saying that other people are saying, you can check that out as well. The rulebook is on there, linked to in addition, and it's new. So I mean, my only other concern too, I mean, new publisher on crowdfunding, but otherwise, I mean, it seems like a relatively straightforward game. So I don't think you're going to run into a whole lot of issues either, at least from that standpoint. So give it a look-see at least. Tell them Liege sent you looking at another abstract. Dinogenics new arrival here over on GameFound. Relaunch, not available widely at retail at all. So this is the time to get in. But the question mark again is it going to be a good game for you? Because it's also going to cost you triple digits for a deluxeified worker placement. And so that's going to be your conundrum right here at nearly $200,000. Fantastic start. The other tricky point is that, you know, they address it right here at the top. Park Manager Edition, right? The complete edition. Sandbox style park building, Jurassic Park-esque if you wanted that. This is the one that people say you go to if you really wanted the Jurassic Park feel. The new arrivals, though, they say, is giving you both an expansion as well as a rework of the core game mechanics, including with the Controlled Chaos expansion. New dinosaurs, facilities, market manipulation cards, DNA, everything else, right? Give you a few examples there, a few elite reveals that they're doing on a weekly basis, new combined game board as well with the core, new DNA market, tokens, and there's the reveal that I mentioned. Gameplay overview, again, just your typical worker placement, right? Managing your workforce, 7 rounds, 3 to 5 placements per turn, getting your DNA to make the dinosaurs in the first place, building the habitats and the attractions to hold them, creating the dinosaurs to put them in the pens, build your park, and, well, if it gets a little seedy, you can go to the underbelly and underground and dabble in mutant species and manipulation of their DNA in the first place. Solo mode as well, if you like that sort of thing, challenge scenarios. And I don't really think it is widely available, right? When I searched this at the beginning of the month and I was talking about this game for the upcoming month of, you know, what I was anticipating, it's just not widely available. So you probably do have to get it. And it does probably, you know, streamline and sometimes maybe even make this a better overall product. But is it a $139 product for you, right? I love the looking meeples. Workers are fine. Goat meeples are fine. See, there's a nod to Jurassic Park with your goat meeples. Tons and tons of reworking card. Aesthetically looks beautiful. These things look awesome with the Controlled Chaos expansion one. But it's a lot of money. And so as much as it might FOMO and not be available on the regular retail market, do you love it that much already? Do you know you love it that much already? As I'm saying, you know, next week in the Don't Buy Anything Retail September video, it's a great game I'd market at this point to have played at somebody else's house first to know how much you love it before you're going to spend $140 to get a base game revamped with 2 expansions. So otherwise, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say, and I know it's well thought of, but I don't have any personal feelings one way or the other. Haven't read too much commentary either way, so I'm going to leave that up for you this week. Speaking of abstracts, we'll just go over here with Ludos, right? Like, I backed this first game, the Sheep and the Tiger one from them, and their thing, Ludos, is getting ancient games from other parts all around the world, making them a little bit newer, and giving them to you in bundled collections. And I give them kudos because they have a niche, they're doing a good job of it, and in this one, this is the Africa collection, as you can see here, Mali, Ghana, Nigeria, and Madagascar. But they're relatively straightforward abstract style games, and at least 2 of these are a little bit more in lines with a checkers style vibe. And so my biggest thing with these is don't buy them because they're pretty, just like I said with Aspens. Don't buy them because they're cheap. Buy them because you actually really, really want this game and think it's going to be a good game. Like, that was my issue with the Sheep and the Tiger. I thought it was going to be a really good abstract game. I really wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was a little unbalanced. I didn't really think it, you know, really suited me and my wife. Like, we just, neither of us kind of really were a huge fan. Anyway, though, pay what you want for one of them if you really want, but then you can get the print and plays and the whole collection for $41. And it does give you a very good run through and overview of what each of these 4 are right here. There's a video if you prefer that, but then it gives you a little bit of a GIF here as well. This is a jump and capture game, so you jump over somebody else's camel tiles as you're laying them down in a checkers-esque vibe. You can block your own camels from being blocked, obviously, in the normal checker style, but after you jump somebody, but if you're next to or adjacent to the other person's camel, then you get to remove another one if you captured all their camels in terms of splitting down time between jumping and placing, then you win. Now the second one here again is more of a Mancala version where you're seeding and plotting and harvesting from your areas as you're moving it around. Then the third one here is the Dara, which is more of a capturing based on having 3 pieces orthogonally and then getting your opponent's pieces so that you can again get more of them by the end of the game. And then the last one here again is a rinse, repeat, lure, capture, hop over in order to get your opponent's pieces. So I think they're fine. I think you just need to know, like, all of these are relatively, again, lighter abstracts that are going to be really easy to hit the table. Talk like, checkers like, 2 of them. And so again, you can check out what the video content there looks like as a whole, and they're killing it, to be frank with you. 95 grand. That is blowing it away from an abstract style with these last 2, regardless of what you think about either games or what you think of abstracts. It's really impressive. Just like when I talked about Quest Kids the other week, like kids board games, dexterity board games, abstract board games on crowdfunding are usually low performers. And so to see all of these doing well, again, I like seeing it a lot because it means we're going to see a lot more of it. Not whether or not it's right for you, but we're going to see more of it. So one of them eventually might be. So give Ludos a look-see. Rayman. Now we're at Rayman. So $140,000 from this one. No idea what to expect with this one. As they say, Flyos is giving us a platformer on a platform. And what you're doing here is you're playing 2 cards on a turn-by-turn basis, face down, and then simultaneously revealing them with all of the other players that you're playing against. The objective of this game is to make it all the way around the map that you see here, this circular board or oval board, whatever you want to call it. And it's not actually like a loop. It actually is like a platform in terms of things. So you're going to be having to jump up as you're going around to go via different platforms. And you also are going to have to rescue 3 of these little teensies in order to actually win by the time you get all the way back around by completing 1 loop. Solo, cooperative, competitive, though the main mode is competitive. It gives me a little bit of vibes of Dinos riding dodos, except in the fact that you're not rolling dice ever. You're playing these 2 cards and they're each going to have initiative on them. So the highest initiative is going to go first in the round, and you get to take the combined actions on both cards because each card is going to have 6 different icons on the left side, and these are going to be moving horizontally, they're going to be moving vertically, they're going to be slapping, they're going to be having special powers, all of those things, and you add the values of both of them together. The initiatives don't, but those do. And so then you're going to be taking all of your actions in any combination through a hex-based system that you can see on the board when it's blown up, going around not only being able to slap the containers or the dungeons that the teensies are captured in, because there's going to be 4 of them placed on the board and you have to go to at least 3 of them and slap it to free one of them and put it in your personal tableau in order to win by the time you get around. But you can also slap other people and knock them back a certain amount of spaces depending on how hard your slap is. The expansion content here are vinyl figures and I guess a set of boss cards. I didn't realize what the boss was. I don't even know what the boss does, but I think it's more for the cooperative style of things. And they call this basically skins, but these are acrylic colored miniatures. So if you want to pay like an extra $80 for these 10 skins, as they call them, I was really concerned that this was going to be one of those console-based scam things where they're going to be skins, but I mean, they're just miniatures. So take that for what you will. You don't need to get them either way if you don't want to. They're selling them all separately. Deluxified all separately as well. Large-scale figures in addition. So again, you can bling the heck out of this. And the base game for this, including the lucky tickets with the stretch goals, is only $49. So, you know, it's a light racing style game, and I'd argue that I see these mechanics and I think it'd look fun, but I've got Dinos riding dodos and I'm willing to kind of wait and see what this one has in store, because those extras in terms of you know, Rayman nostalgia or colored miniatures aren't going to necessarily entice me. And we'll see what these lucky tickets are in terms of stretch goals here, new figures. So it'll be interesting to see if any of those are ending up to be gameplay or if they're all going to be deluxe aesthetic versions of things. I already ran you through everything you need to know that's being made clear in these gifts right here. You can play it online right now. The rulebook is right there as well. And there's a bunch of preview content, as you well can see right there in addition. There are the cards that I was mentioning, the initiative in the upper left, and then the 3 icons that are going to be active on each and every card. And you just smash them together in order to get the sum total of them as you're making your way around. So there's the boss stuff and everything you need to know. So that is where Rayman's at. Does that tickle your fancy? What's next? Well, it's Trust Me. It gives me a little bit of Oriflamme vibes, if you will, but it's also completely different. It's from the publisher also who put out Hats, if you're more familiar with that trick-taking game, because this is somewhat familiar in that way, but at the same time, you really actually need to go watch this 5-minute video on how to play, because again, this is another page that really gives you absolutely no clue of the depth of this game based on what is actually on there, because all it really says is you're going to be collecting these tickets by tricking your opponents, right? Like a little bit of BS. There's going to be 4 cards face up, and all you do, Chris, is you put one of your cards face down, and everyone else votes at the table whether or not you were lying and telling the truth. So when you put one of these cards down, you have to put it down on one that's supposedly matching, and you're either bluffing and lying and saying it's matching when it's not, or you're telling the truth. And people around the table have to vote on whether or not they believe that you matched. And if they vote that you matched and they're not going to bluff you on it, and you didn't match, you get both of those cards. If they called your bluff and they were wrong because you actually did it, well, then you get both cards and you get to play another card. And so the other aspect is that if you're not trusted, you also get a ticket. A ticket are your victory points, and those are going to be given, in this case, with the difference between the two cards that you laid down of the different colors. So in this case, if this blue card, for example, was a 6 and you laid a 1 down of yellow and they believed you, then you would get both the 6 and the 1, and you get a card of 5 value right there. I think it's not actually that, but that's what I'm saying it is in my example. If you get caught lying, though, you get nothing like it says. Later on, as one of your additional different actions that you can do instead of playing a card down, you can actually discard either cards that are all the same number to get the value of that ticket. So 3 3s would get you a 3, or 4 3s would get you a 4, and you can do that. Or you can play cards to the tableau out here in order to trade them with some of the stuff that's out there. If there are none out there, you can then actually play 4 more from the deck. This game goes essentially for 2 rounds, i.e. you've gone through the deck twice with the cards that are out there and there are no more to be filling spots. Or you go through and you have gathered all of these tickets that are available, and then you count up how many points you have and you see who wins. There's hats that I mentioned, and then there's tuned as well. I don't really remember tuned, so I'll just mention hats and you can go look at these other ones as well. You can add a 5th player expansion with foiled cards if you want, unless you're getting the Wonderland collection. So if that really appeals to you, again, I think it's a lighter style card game, but I think it's doing something kind of neat, clever, and different. But it's going to be a lot lighter and a lot more take that potentially. And again, it's going to be more of a dynamic game. So either way, for what it is, 23 grand's freaking awesome. So there you go. Trust me. Trust me. Then Publish or Perish, party game based on academia, poking fun at how ridiculous sometimes publicating and putting out papers in the first place. Publicating, you know, I'm leaving that in there for the sake of this. Doing publications and doing research on an academia side of things is sometimes often absolutely and utterly ridiculous. And so you basically have these action cards and you're going to be using them to manipulate, put out public comments, and get manuscripts published in the first place while answering some trivia that may go along with it as a whole. So it's going to cost you anywhere between $29 and $39. You're going to have these action cards you're going to be drawing and utilizing on a turn-by-turn basis, 3 or 2 depending on the player count. It's just going to be a rinse and repeat, sprinkle along with fun facts from all these different disciplines. So if you want a little bit of more academia thrown in there as well, all the rules are on one page, although it's a little bit obtuse until you actually see the cards and see how they're actually going to be interacting in the first place. They've already got like 3 expansions to go along with it that are going to be coming out as a whole. Revenge of the Reviewer, again, more action cards. You're playing it now with more than 6 people if you want. An academic post, if you will, if you're reading there. New manuscript cards that elevate the absurd narrative. And then you're also going to have a midterm grading extravaganza with a whole bunch of extra trivia cards that can also be used in other trivia. So Kickstarter backer, thank you if you promote it a little bit and help to get the word out. You get some extra manuscript cards. So shipping again is going to be 10 to 15 bucks, and you're going to get it, they say, $29 versus $39 at retail. So publish or perish. There you go. Then Sugarpow Dice Battle Royale, where it's sort of Yahtzee meets, you know, Dice Throne-esque vibes, if you will. Now, where I'm going with that, actually, the quote I think on the bottom of the page is Super Smash Brothers meets Yahtzee, which is kind of apropos, but it's going to be very heavily dice based. And the truth of it is that you actually have to watch the how to play video to have any semblance of what's actually going on here, because essentially what you're doing is you're drafting up to 4 heroes at the beginning of the round. You're then choosing 3 of them to use. They're all going to have a special ability on them indicated at the bottom of their card. They're going to have a health value as well as an attack or a hit value. And so you're going to take your 2 dice that go along with them and you're going to roll those. But as you do damage to other people, you're going to be taking your health dice out of your health pool and then putting those health dice into your roll pool, which will then also have, well, detrimental sides on them, penalty sides on them, which may stop your attack in the first place unless you have a special ability that allows you to hit someone in that dynamic. That's about it. You go until you're the last one standing, right? That's everything you need to know. And the expansions here, I think there are like 3 or 4 of them as a whole, are giving you, well, more content, but they're also giving you more modes. As this competitive game at its core, it's also going to give you a cooperative mode with one of the expansions. It's going to give you a solo mode with one of the other expansions, and then the Arena Rumble mode here with the second expansion right there. See, well, look right there, co-op mode, 6 bosses to defeat the candy boss minions, arena mode, arenas that alter the gameplay, the solo saga with a solo story and new equipment, and then just more fighters with the 4th expansion. And apparently this was one of those, like, get in early so you can, because again, it says right here, right, if you are pre-launch VIP launch boom, that has launch boom written all over it, which again, I have to talk about this because you know my previous video on launch boom where they sort of alluded to just kind of making up quotes. And not that I am going to say that with any of these, but like, pre-release fan, you couldn't even put a name on that, right? Like, does that person not have a name? Come on. If that's a real person, put a name on it. If it's not a real person, well, it shouldn't be on the page. I can't tell. You can't tell. All it is a generic, well, whatever, right? Is playtester someone that's part of the campaign, the group? I don't know. I wish there was more mechanical information on the page, because all of those things I just showed you, none of that are on the page whatsoever of all those issues. So you need to actually watch the video on how to play, which again is one of my big on pages nowadays whatsoever. But if you want it, 15 bucks extra. I mean, it's a nice Dice Throne-esque variant with a little bit lighterness overall. So take that for what you will, but that's Sugarpow. Then LA1 Cybernoir detective board game, 44 grand. 44 grand with only 300 people? Anyway. So I don't know what to make of this. Immersive story, cooperative play, replayable cases. You get 4 in the base game. You get an additional 1 with a 5th expansion, 800 cards. It's kind of a choose your own adventure-esque vibe with card-driven Lands of Galzier style play, maybe 7th Continent. I don't know, a little combo there of the cards that you're going to be utilizing. And so you can see all of what they're offering you, but again, you're going to actually have to read the rule book on this one, because nothing on the page is going to tell you the core of what you're actually doing on a turn-by-turn, round-by-round basis. I mean, it gives you the briefest of overviews here of setting up the case, taking a darkness/event card, essentially, and then performing 2 actions on your turn. So again, as a deduction-style, case-driven game with standees that can be upgraded into miniatures and a card-driven aspect of things that is, you know, reminiscent of those games I just mentioned with all of the text-heavy investigations and numbered cards that you're going to be doing, you know, 9 different types of cards that you're going to be having to utilize or keep track of or deal with. The darkness really is like the bad guy cards, and if you pull up the rulebook here, it actually says the city grows dark. You flip it over to the dark side. If it gets flipped over or would be flipped over, it's already dark. The darkness track goes to 1. That's going to affect your time frame in which you're going to be able to solve the case. And then again, none of this on the page of these actual actions you're going to be taking. Moving your investigator to other locations, laying low to reclaim one of your tokens from heat. Then you can also prepare and draw skill cards from your deck and discount down to the size of hand you need. Then you can prepare by drawing cards from your skill deck. You can go to the black market and pay credits to get items that you may need, or you can analyze some of these tokens that you have to get whatever benefit they're going to be offering. Now again, 4 others down here, including special actions, 3 other different types of free actions. So although this is a deduction game, it's going to be heavy action management as well, because that is not even going into the investigation side of things. You're going to be solving this case by either getting a conclusion titled, well, case closed, or the darkness goes too far too fast and you can't do it before you need to do it by essentially it reaches the end of the track, like I mentioned. As I just mentioned and skipped over, investigating, where you're revealing the top card of whatever location encounter deck you're at, investigator stakeout card, resolve it, and then place it on the bottom and basically be able to advance your case with these different types of clue tokens that you're going to be gathering. You can campaign link these scenarios together if you'd like, but they say, you know, that this is going to be tons and tons replayable. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, if you will, because I'm guessing that there are multiple endings in multiple different ways. Both satisfactory and probably not satisfactory. What more detail do you want to know? Well, again, you may have to watch a little video, otherwise the page isn't going to have it. Here is the 5th one, the expansion that goes along with this, including new 2 character packs and 42 extra cards. The miniatures that I mentioned, the deluxifying your tokens there as well if you really want to. And again, just like I said earlier, right? This is expensive. 4 replayable missions with non-miniatures is going to cost you $79. So again, like, I don't see people yelling in the comment section about this one. Again, that's because it's indie, and you know what? It is a little expensive, and that's okay. But you know what? Let's be equal footing on all of these. So there you go. There's the shipping. There's a little video preview. So is this going to be up your ilk in a case-based strategy game as well with action management? Slight twist on what we've seen over the other style of this game in the past. So there's LA1. Now we've got Secret Recipe, where you're trying to decipher what grandma saved for you in terms of recipes in order to make them after she's dead. A little bit more of a deduction style themed thing as well, because you're going to be dealt out 4 random ingredient cards at the beginning of the game, trying to manage whatever recipe has been selected. And you're going to be crossing them out and trying to figure out what other people have in order to figure out grandma's recipe in order to score victory points before the end of the game. This is what you've got going on here with the resources that are going to be out available. This is the tracker that you're going to be keeping track of your victory points on. And this is an example of a player board where you're going to be selecting which ones you have and then subsequently crossing them out on other people's because you know that they don't have it. But then you'll be giving clues, receiving clues in terms of what other people may have or may not have to slowly make deductions. However, you can make guesses as things go along in terms of the recipe. However, it's high risk, high reward, because if you guess incorrectly, you will actually lose points. Now they say here, you get some exclusives and some special offers. Let's see what we got going on down here. And EU VAT is included in the price, so that's good if you're looking at it from that aspect of things. But $44 is going to get you the base game with some stretch goals. And Grandma's Favorite is going to be 59 euros here for $71, including a secret recipe expansion and the deluxe ingredient bag and promo pack. So, I mean, again, speaking of money, this is not an inexpensive game for what it is. Their other game, Hike, is mentioned here as well. But again, going back up to the gameplay, well, like I mentioned, right, you're going to have to go read the 18-page rulebook for this one more than anything else, because all I know, right, is the hidden recipe ingredients that are in that pantry on that page I showed you from the rulebook. That's going to give you additional information. You're tracking what other people's clues may be able to tell you on your own individual board there. And then you can discuss and vote, making guesses about other people's ingredients. Like I said, guess right, great. Guess wrong, bad. 4 times a game, though, you can mark theories about other people's ingredients. Again, they get you fewer points here, but it's going to cost you no points in case you're doing that. Additional points and bonuses when other people guess your ingredients, so how you manage that as well. Tea breaks to make packs somehow in addition. So do you want to be on a team with this one as well? So, I mean, again, $12,000, still good. Is it your type of deduction game, though? That's why you have to go look-see and watch some of the video stuff. Trash Dash, card-based looped racing game, if you will. So $10,000 of its $12,000 funding goal right now. Fast-paced racing game where you're just kind of laying your action moving cards down with your asymmetric little creatures here to begin with, and you're going around this modular track. You set it up randomly in random distributions of these cards in the first place. You make your way along the top of these cards, loop it around to the bottom. That's 1 lap. You can play up to 3 laps in terms of, you know, when the game is going to end. You have special spaces along the way that are going to give you power-up spills or, well, boosts, if you will, or even maybe protect you or stop you. So the action cards are going to be relatively straightforward, and you can combo them. You can basically play a single card or a single card in a scare, or you can play multiples of the same card to get a boost, which is then dependent on a die roll. The dash ability, as I mentioned here. Resting allows you to catch your breath and get more of those action cards and fill back up on your hand. So again, go around until somebody gets the required number of loops. If you want a CPU racer or tournament mode style of things, you can as well. And you know what? I have to say this, though, and one of the quotes is, the best thing about this game is the miniatures. Okay, that's good, but I really am more concerned about gameplay, as I always say. So if you want to spend $500 on it, though, you can get a pre-production copy in addition. So either way, I mean, $10,000, this one's probably going to fund here, maybe even by the time you guys are viewing this. So if you like a little card-driven, lighter style race game, give this Trash Dash a look. Next up, Dungeons of Oak Dell. And this is a sequel in a slightly different way to the Villages of Oak Dell as a roll and write dungeon crawl, if you will. Now you're going to ask yourself, how do I actually do that, Chris? Well, you're the dungeon master. You're traversing through this land. You have your asymmetric hero. You have your dungeon cards. You have your map cards. You have your enemy boss cards. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be rolling these dice, placing them on a center grid that's going to have a circular type dimension. And then you're going to be grabbing them, using them to then move your character throughout the dungeon. And then using specific parts of that map, connect 2 points on, say, the boss here. And when you have a second line that crosses over where the boss is, as you can see there, then that does damage to the boss or the enemy in terms of a certain amount. So as you can see here, right, that'd be 1 damage. Then this one going across is going to be 2 more hits because it crosses over the monster, and that's how you're going to be slowly achieving. You're going to be completing quests, fighting those bosses like I mentioned. It's going to have a roguelike campaign immersion and upgradableness as you're going along. I said upgradableness, I stand by it. And if you're going to get it, screw the base game pledge. You need the full game. By the way, that's horrible, horrible wording. You know, aperitif, appetizer, base game for €6. But the full game. Again, like, right? Like, you never want to say something isn't a full game. 6 different bosses, 5 different heroes, 21 different monsters, and 6 different dungeons you can go against. I don't know why you'd buy the other one, truth be told. It's going to have a map that you can traverse as you're going between these dungeons as well. So, I mean, that's what you get, and that looks actually pretty freaking sweet. So if you're a solo junk looking for a new one-player solo-esque vibe, that's what they've got going on here. Like I mentioned, this is a little brief overview. Roll your dice, play some, select a die, move accordingly, draw lines based on your die to any other point on the monster sheet. Again, being careful that you want them to intersect over the monster in order to do damage. Then you roll a die to get more results of what the monster is going to do back to you. Draw your 3 dice, round ends, new one. And again, doesn't have to be solo. Continue playing until any other player completes the objective or time runs out. So again, I think it's kind of doing something different. I give them kudos. This does look different as a whole. I don't really care that Awakened Realms uses your printer. You know, I'm okay with that. But, you know, you got to throw that in there a little bit too. I understand it. So there's plenty of preview content there. If you like preview content, this is another one of those pages with tons and tons of it. But 2 Acorn Games, I mean, again, I think they're killing it here. You're going to look at this and go 10 grand. Yeah, this is 10 grand for a print and play, folks. So take that for what it is. Freaking sweet. Now, mea culpa on this one, John. I'm sorry. I completely missed your campaign. Smallbox Games here. The latest from Smallbox is Pariahs. And if you're not familiar, Smallbox is a one-man company. John does all of this, right? The games, the mechanics, the printing, the publishing, the art, I believe, too, if I'm correct. I'm probably screwing that up. But don't believe me, don't like anything that I say, well, you know, you can see Space Biff right down there, and he gives his glowing endorsement for Pariahs as an area control worker placement 2 style player game in the lines of a little bit of vibe of Battle Line from Knizia, if you will, because you have 8 different locations that you're going to be playing cards to that are going to fill up. Each of your cards, again, as they say, it's going to be text heavy, and it's going to have a unique asymmetric ability that's going to be utilizable by the card, but also the location that you're playing it to in the first place. Your 8 location cards are shown there. Initiative cards and reference cards to go along with it. You can print and play this one too, and the rules and how to play are there as well. So I love this. Where's the quote, John? I'm sorry. Where's the quote? Where's the quote? John, did you get rid of it? John, I refreshed this page and you got rid of it. I have to mention this, right? Because he had on the page. John, man, you should have left it on the page. I'm sorry. I'm going to mention it, John, so I apologize in advance. He had why you should back this game and why shouldn't you back this game, right? As why you should back this game, he didn't pay anybody to do a video or content on it. Why you shouldn't back this game, I didn't pay anybody to do any video content on this. I love a little snark. I'm sorry. Anyway, so this is, you know, this is cool. I'm a big fan of some of his other ones, and he's been really killing it from a small publisher side of things. Again, and this is like, again, single publisher. So when he says that you're not going to be able to get it at retail, you're not. I think he sells some of his stuff on his website, but otherwise, I mean, 15 grand is killing it. So give this a look-see as a late back. I'll throw the link down in the description below. Hotshot Pickleball. Speaking of another game that just needs a little bit more on the page and how these mechanics of these card-driven aspects are going to be playing, because there's going to be a little bit of actually physically moving your little standee back and forth, because you're going to be playing cards on a rally basis or a long shot basis in order to hit the ball, the pickleball, back and forth until your opponent can no longer do so. And you're going to be playing these rally cards in order to move and to hit it back over the net. But then you're going to have the ability to draw a long shot card to sort of go for big or broke. And it could be something good, or it could just be you hitting into the net. And so each of these games, quote unquote, is 1 point long. And then so you play like best of 3 or best of 5, essentially, right? And so it's got a little bit of a physical component. It's got a little bit of a tactical strategy component, but it's also going to be super light. So you can play different modes if you want. 2-2, 1-1, 2-1, 1-0, solo mode. That's solo mode, 1-0. It runs you through right what I said there, and then how you're playing and how long you want to play from that aspect of things. So again, you really have to watch this 3-minute video to actually get a better sense, because it shows you again what you're getting there. But some of these rally cards each have individual abilities on them. Your hot shot cards have abilities on them you're going to be playing. Your long shot cards have a different ability or text written on them. So how you're going to be combining those, in what way, in what order, in what shape, how much strategy is there, that's what's going to be up to you, and what order and dynamic you play them in is going to be, well, to make it or break it from that aspect. No stretch goals as well, so it's just for something light and, you know, not too serious. I give them a lot of kudos. It's going to be $34 here. What's the expansion pack? It seems like everyone's getting the expansion pack for $47 included, or one expansion pack. 2 games, 1 expansion pack. Okay, I was a little confused on that. So what's actually in the expansions? I don't remember looking at that on this page earlier. So let's see. Add-ons. Party Pickle. Get, you know, a pungent peculiarity at the start of every point. Grumpy ref rules. That sounds like a real expansion for me. And that just gives you a way to give more rally cards and a chance to push the ref's buttons to tweak the rules of the game. So there you go. I need to stop saying so much. And Midnight Trading Company, their first one on here, but they're already 200% funded. Again, another 11 grand in the bank. So boom, there you go. Then we're talking Isla, almost 50% funded, $4,700. And this is again like a slight variation of a competitive like roll and write, if you will, as you're going through traversing this island, trying to make it to the exit, score the most points based on your research, your threat, and your unused dice as you're going along. And you're getting a slight exclusivity there and maybe some stretch goals if they get funded. So unfortunately, again, this is one of those where I really would like a little bit more of this information on the page, because as you can see on the rulebook here, it really doesn't mention on the page anything about these 6 different phases. It gives you just a brief synopsis here. The planning phase, where you're either resting, exploring, or researching. The dice roll phase, where one player rolls 5 dice, but if you're only ones, you get a threat card that has to be resolved before anyone else can take the rest of their turns. Then you get the rest phase. If you were the rester, you get the explore phase, and then you get the research, and then you prepare for the next round as you traverse across these maps, trying to make your way through the other side based on the terrain locations and the availability. You're going to be having many ways of scoring as included here: the exit bonus, the research card bonus, the threat card bonus, unused dice, and the escape track, as well as unexplored spaces that may penalize you if you cannot go to them in the first place. If we scroll back up here, you can see the game ends when you have exited the island or become lost on the island. So how you're going to do that and how you're going to pick up items, refresh dice, and utilize them along the way. There's a solo mode if you really want. So it gives you a little bit of more of a synopsis here, but even something like this on the page would be super nice, just to give a little bit more outline mechanics in terms of the scoring, what these actions actually are, refreshing, getting back your dice that you've already played to certain areas, explore action, which allows you to basically exhaust your dice, moving spaces corresponding on the map, depending on the terrain, researching to get one of those research cards that's up in the market. So again, I just would love to see a little bit more of this on the page, and I think it's doing something fine. It's doing something slightly different, the dice exhaustion and some of the upkeep in terms of the actual like roll and write style of things. So I mean, I can see why people are interested, and hopefully it will continue to fund, and we'll see where it's at in a couple weeks when it is, well, closer to funding and closer to the end. That's Isla. So next up, Comic Book Boom, nearly halfway there as a comic book strategy game. Again, this is gonna fly under the radar, and I didn't see this the first time I looked around, right? Finalist for Best Strategy Game on the Ion Awards this year, and Best Game Design finalist on the Cardboard Edison, right? Like, those aren't always like gangbuster, like you're going to recognize them, they're going to get signed by huge publishers sort of games, but they're also meaning that don't be fooled by the aesthetic, don't be fooled by the publisher, the appearance, whatever else it may be. They're solid game designs, because a lot of those awards are like for first timers, and so they're going up against some good competition there as well. So you're making bets, you're speculating, you're combo laying. And so what you're doing on a turn-by-turn basis, you're going to be drafting these comic books, and you're going to be laying them face down simultaneously, kind of looking over your shoulder at what other people are doing. And why that matters is because when you flip them over, it's going to create hype. It's going to create demand for that type of comic book. And so the hype track is going to go up. Do we have a hype track? I think Board Game Geek needs an official hype track. You can just see like the level rising next to each game. I don't know, I'm just being facetious, but you know, I wouldn't put it against them, because now, you know, GameFound's doing their own thing, and so I think they're gonna have to keep up with the Joneses. So it's only gonna cost you $39 for this game. You can bundle it, but here's the gameplay aspect of things that I was mentioning, right? Your research, gathering your cards, then laying them down in the manner that I just mentioned, developing, then you lay them out, build your combos, publishing, flip them back over, generate the hype, themes soaring up the board. But if you weren't keeping an eye on who else did what, you may have overhyped, then the overhyped actually gets you 0. And then you collect money from the rest, more money, more books, rinse and repeat as you can get more enhancement cards and other effects at the end of the round in order to, well, get the most money at the end of the game. That's it. I mean, right? It's a relatively straightforward card-driven aspect game with a few other special effects that are going to tweak it along the way. Again, you can see enough preview content there as well. So it definitely gives you the aesthetic vibe of a Sentinels of Multiverse, but I think it's doing something different than either this one or Comic Book Hunters. So we'll see where it goes, and hopefully it funds, but it's got 50% way to go, so we'll see. Then Positano, 10 grand of 20 grand already. So it's doing really well from a 1 to 4 player, also marketed with an expansion of 5 to 6 players, a light style bidding to tile draft to build your seaside views in 3 dimensions on tiered cliffs, scoring the points based on the quality of the buildings as well as the view that they're going to be offering you, capitalizing on the individual end game objective scoring cards. Want to know how to play it? Well, you're going to have to watch John Gets Games because that is pretty much any of the information or all of the information that's on it as a whole. Plenty of preview content there as well. You want a new 5 to 6 player expansion with new building blocks that you can go ahead and utilize? Yes, you can, right? Shipping is whatever. Again, super short page. Wish there was actually, okay, what makes this game special? Why is this game different apart from the 3D aesthetic? Is it more 3D aesthetic than actual mechanic? I have no idea. You're going to have to watch a video, but 10 grand still, 10 grand for the lack of information on here makes you go, could they have funded at this point if there would have been more information? I'll give it a look-see. You should too. Positano, game of bidding and building. Escape Master, did you want to play speed on speed? That's what they've got going on here, as you're going to have a certain number of stacks laid out on the table in front of you, certain number of cards in your hand, 10 cards, I believe, and you just have to play them all numerically, ascending or descending on one of these stacks before someone else. You can only play one at a time unless you combo them. And that is now actually the quickest summary of the 17-page rulebook, because yes, there's 17 pages of this rulebook in order to tell you the nuances of all of the things that I just mentioned, because there are going to be some combos. It is going to be heavy. Take that. It's going to be very light. It's going to be very terrifically fast, and any cards left in your hand will scores against you, and you play a number of rounds that you want, and you go until you're happy with things. Again, it gives you a little bit of a story deck or a beast mode deck card if you want as well, and again, a little bit of other character progression or abilities that you can utilize as just ways of making the game slightly more different as you're going along. So wisdom cards, Doom Master, again, just kind of what I mentioned in terms of what you're going to be having available to you, some wild cards, an expansion here that I didn't even see in the rulebook being mentioned, so that's going to give you an additional 2 to 6 player option with more leader cards, more story cards, a few joker cards, and dead end cards that are going to basically shut those stacks down from being played on any further. So there you go. Playtesters love it, reviews and video content there as a whole. So if you want it with some shipping, everything is included. What is the base price there? $19, so $30 for a light card game from an indie developer that may not see wide retail just from that aspect of things. So yeah, there you go. That's why it's almost funded. $8,700 of $10,000. There you go. I thought I'd mention it. GameFound, The Way, Endorphin Games, $2,000 of its nearly $6,600 goal. You know, English is not their first language, so take that where if you will, but I don't really get a great sense of what this game is doing. 120 different skill cards that you're going to be managing, measuring, and picking from. You have a stack of 2 cards that are going to be out on the playing field, playing cards one on top of them, checking the colors to see which one has the higher score. Then whichever one has that, you move a total number of spaces your pawn indicated from that, gathering hexes of your color and using the unique abilities to collect all 10 of them along this track as you go along. That's it. That's the whole game. And again, like, you may have something kind of slightly interesting and different there, but I have no clue based on how much or how little information's on the page. So give it a look, see if you want. There you go. GameFound. We're done. So there you go. Round up. Boom! Your boys got the video somehow better. I don't know how I did it. I just screwed with stuff. I clicked some random stuff. I tried Googling stuff first, and it was like completely and utterly worthless. So I found a couple things that were like slightly adjacent, because you know, you like Google the model and then your model is never quite the same as them. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. News roundup, tons of new game announcements in the next news video, whether that's tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, whatever I decide to do from that standpoint. Maybe a Harmonies review thrown in there. Also a video of games recently sent to me and my opinions / early impressions on them. A bunch of AEG games, maybe the Wild Gardens and Nocturne review as well thrown in there. Just combined it all into one and give you smacking quick hits so you can kind of see. So that's about all I got. We got soccer again, going head to head. Both my kids' games every weekend for the whole season are pretty much overlapping. So it's one parent going to each game in each direction, each of us driving like 25 to 30 minutes completely opposite each other. So it's freaking ridiculous. That's all I got. We had a birthday party this weekend too. Again, like 3 kids within like 5 weeks having birthday parties, and we decided to, you know what, let's have all of them together. And you know what, don't get me wrong, I don't mind that. At the same time, it's nice to be able to get together. If you have a family like I do, we like getting together. We like each other as family. And so especially for the kid as he gets older, like it's my middle, and so he's turning 9. Like, he doesn't really want to celebrate it with his 5-year-old cousin and his 3-year-old cousin all grouped together. Like, it loses some of the specialness as he gets older. So, you know, he notices that more. And I'm kind of like, oh, man. Because he was talking to me about it tonight in the car on the ride home from soccer practice. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, buddy, sometimes, you know, you do for family, as they say. And this is one of those times. So that's all I got. Otherwise, I'm going to start tugging at other people's heartstrings. I got some copies in the mail this week. One of which is secret. I can't tell you about it. I can't even tell you more than that. I'm not even supposed to probably tell you that it's secret. And then I got another one from a big company / studio, wink, wink, nod, nod, of their upcoming game. And I just got something in the mail today, and I'm just being lazy, and I haven't even opened the package to know what it is. So I have no freaking clue. And I'm behind on stuff, so I need to play some of their stuff I'm behind on. Okay, that's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking weekend. Thank you for subscribing. Hopefully, if this is actually looking more productive and more... if my production is looking better, is what I'm trying to say, then maybe people will subscribe more, right? Does that appeal to people? Because, you know, you guys like me when I have crappy production. Maybe we can trick people into liking me more when I have better production. I said it. I'm done.